Hello, welcome to another exciting installment of some Haskell on the internet. Last week I was writing a test for Servant. In fact, the week before that I was refactoring the sort of simple API I'd written in Servant, and I was having to manually retest everything every time I made a change. So that annoyed me a little bit. So last week I tried to add some testing to Servant so that I could have automated tests for kind of the key flows. It took a little while, but after an hour and a bit, I got a basic test working in Servant. I had to restructure some stuff as I went. So the plan for today, I think, is to look at adding more tests and better tests. So at the minute, we just hit a single endpoint. What I want to do is do some little flows through the API. So things like create a booking and then make sure we can list it again. And then we might look at some more. Well, actually, create an environment, make sure we can list it, and then maybe some more complex stuff like create a booking against an environment and make sure that when you list the environment, you get the booking back. I think that'd be how it works. So those kinds of things, right? So I'm covering more of the functionality. And it actually gives me more confidence as I keep refactoring it, and even as I start adding in some new functionality, that I won't be breaking the code, basically. I don't have to manually test it by running curl commands all the time. So that's the plan for today. Here is the code as I left it at the end of last time. Hey, Tim. So I have a single test. This is my single spec. So this client stuff returns the full API, and the only endpoint I'm interested in is this second one, this creation thing. And then I call, what am I doing here? I am running the client, passing in the arguments to create an environment, so this new environment thingy. And I'm checking that I get back right, which is success in this case, and I get back the environment. Oh, in fact, I think when I left it last time, it doesn't work. So let me just check that's still broken. It is still broken. Yeah. So I was just checking the test actually did something by putting the wrong value in here. But presumably, if I delete that and rerun it, it should all work when it's compiled. Yeah. Okay. So we can create an environment, make sure we get it back again, which is cool. So am I cleaning up? I guess it's one thing. So probably not. It doesn't really look like it. So I'm creating this database connection. That's right, I created a test database for it as well. So I'm connecting to this database, and I am running the migrations, but I'm not doing any cleanup afterwards. So presumably I have a whole bunch of environments in there at the moment. I'm presumably if I put an index on the name to make it unique, then this test would start breaking. So let's maybe look at some cleanup before I go any further, because I don't want to leave a mess behind. Got a shell here. Do I want to connect as Postgres? I guess I could do. I'll actually be able to connect as bookie test, I think. Oops, bookie test. Okay, so I have my tables there, and I have how many things environment. Oh, to me to that. Let's not do that. That's what I'm doing. I got 5 things in there. Okay, I'm guessing they've all got the same name. Yes, they're all called test.m. Okay, so what I might do is, before I run the test, I might write something which deletes everything. We'll just clean everything out of the environment. And in fact, let's write a helper for that, I think. So I could write something like cleandb, and we'll run it under IO and won't return anything. Then we can say, whoops, cleandb is do something. What are we going to do here? Actually, we're going to need the pool, which is, I can't remember what the type of that is. We're going to run SQL pool, and then we want to do something over that pool. So what we're going to do, we're not going to run a migration. Let me just have a quick look at environment database. We've got things like get. I wonder if we can delete everything. I guess or truncate or something like that. This is going to be in, where does get come from? Database. So this get is just persistent. Okay. So in persistent, oh, wrong one, missed slightly. Persistent. What have we got? So we have, this is the query operator. No, database operations, that's what I wanted. So this is get, it's not what I want, don't want get many. There's delete. I guess I can delete a single thing. Date specific group identifier. Okay. And is there truncate? Doesn't seem to be. Okay, I could get them all back and then delete them in turn. What's an example usage of this? So it's just delete and then some ID. I could try that. Okay, so the list endpoint just called select list, and it gives me back an entity, so I should be able to get the ID from that. Okay, so we can say something like ems is whatever I copied. Okay, there we go. So run SQL pool. Okay, so that'll get me back all the environments. And then can we say, so for a single environment, we'd say something like delete, and then, oh, how do you get the ID out again? I forget. Maybe it's in the booking actually. We had to get the so from SQL key. No. want to get the ID out of the entity. I can't remember how to do that. So here, end by ID, maybe just pass the entity, maybe that's enough. I don't think it is though. So it'll be something like will it be something like mapm of run SQL pool. Wait, I'm going to pull it out to its own function. Delete entity. I'm going to run it over ems. So delete entity and take a pool. I'm going to check the type of that because I don't think that's quite right. Oh, this is in app settings. It's a pool SQL backend, apparently. Okay, I haven't got my helper running. Don't know why. Not sure why it's not liking me. Okay, so take the database pool, and we don't return anything. Oh, we just want this under IO. Okay, so now you can say delete entity of the pool is do. I might not need to do here, but we're going to say we're going to run SQL pool, pass in the delete, and delete should take a key. Right, so it's going to take an entity environment. So we have an env here as well. And then I can get rid of the do, I think. Join us together. I'm sure a lot of mistakes in here, and just the language server is not helping me because it can't load HTTP client. I don't know where it wants me to add HTTP client to. I guess to the main application. Delete entity needs to pool, so we'll just pass the pool into there. Then I think that should work. Well, I don't think it'll work, but we can try and build it. So these things are not in scope. It's annoying to have to do them without relying on the language server. Okay, so I'll just copy them out of here. So we need the pool. Can't copy it out of here. That's annoying. SQL backend is in here. Run SQL pool is in here. So SQL backend comes from there. And then the definition of entity, where does that come from? That comes from persist. Oh, hang on. Yeah, so there was persist, which we don't have yet. persist, and the only thing we're going to pull in for that is entity, I think. And then the pool comes from like data.pool. Okay. Try it again to the next errors are. Hidden package resource pool. Okay, so that's not available in my test. Oops, not there. So we'll stick it in there. See if this works. The next error is delete. I can grab it from persist, I think. Next error is select list. Okay. All very boring errors so far. Env. Okay, good. This is kind of what I wanted. So, well, that's one thing I expected. So I'm passing it into the environment. I need to get the key out of it. And how do you do that? So in persist, where's entity defined? Oh, give me a link to entity, come on. Oh, there we go. Oh, I can't click on that one. Google. I'm looking for entity. Record name, entity values. That's quite annoying. Structure's got entity, key, and record. How do you get the key out? So I want something that goes from an entity to a key, I think. Oops. Entity to a key. That thing. I don't want to coerce it. No, that's not helpful. Okay. Let's just go back to entity. So that gets values back. That gets values back. Oh, this is frustrating. It's going to be quite easy just on what it is. there's something like to key, what was it called? It was from SQL key or to SQL key, or maybe it's called to SQL key on it. Maybe it's as simple as that. So I can say delete to SQL key. It's going to come from persist. It doesn't come from persist. It comes from persist Postgres. No. Okay, so back to Google, and we're going to find out where ToSQL key comes from, and let's see if anything else of use in here. So like a get key. All the instances. So ToSQL key from SQL key, get field name, get table name. No. Oh, this is not helpful. SQL key takes an int64 and returns a key record, and from SQL key it takes a key record and returns an int64. But I don't think I want that. I think I just want the records, sorry, the key out of this entity. There's a lot of stuff about getting values out of it, but not really about getting the key out. Does this destructure into something like, I don't actually, what would it destructure into? Because I don't know what its type is. The REPL for a second. Can I get access to entity environment? Okay, the environment bit is ambiguous here, but I don't really want that bit. Let's go entity. So can we then import database.persist? Okay. So entity takes a key record and the record and returns an entity record, but what can you do with it? How do you unkey it? Entity key. That's what I wanted, it seems. And that's in persist. So when we call delete, is that going to work? Oh, cool. Oh, and cool in the sense that we got slightly further. So delete entities to find they're not used. Clean DB. Define but not used. Oh, here, because I'm not calling it. So we run the migrations, and we'll call clean DB with our pool. Except here we call it con for reasons. Can I get rid of to SQL key I did? I think, yeah. Let's run it again. Oh, okay, maybe that's enough. I'll bring it back for a second. Where's my Postgres connection? It did not work. Maybe it did work. No, it cleans on the way up, but not the way out. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because it's a single row, ID 6, but it's the one that we created in this test. So if I run the test again, we should have ID 7 in a single thing. Okay, I'm happy with that. So we clean up on the way in. That's good enough, I guess. Doesn't seem the most efficient way of deleting everything, but it's good enough for now. I got to use mapim again, which is pretty exciting. Okay, so I have my basic test, which creates an environment and checks its name. So let's try and make this a bit better. So after create environment, I think we'll get environment. I need to look at the API for this. It's not in there, it's an API, isn't it? So we have list and then create and then get. Okay. So in the test, I can say get environment. A quick look at client previously, it seems that this syntax is the only way of getting back the individual endpoints, which is okay for a small API, but as it gets bigger, that's going to get quite annoying, I think. Okay, so we're not creating a user, so it should create an environment. I might put this in sim test because I want access to result, a bit of result anyway. Okay, how do we get this out of the right? Got an user type. I want to get the right. I know that match is right. So now I want to get it out. So I can say something like right E is result. Maybe put that in valid syntax. Okay, so I have the environment we just created, but that's only given us back, it hasn't given us back the ID, is that right? It's a bit awkward. No, I think I thought it gave us back the ID as well. I think I'm gonna have to go back to curl, that's annoying. Curl, let's get environments do anything at all. Oops. Am I sharing a database? I thought I had separate databases. Main? Yeah, different database. Bookie. Different host. Right, okay. So they are separate databases running separate instances. So is there any in the environments table? There is. Why is my list not working? Because I'm not running the server, that's why. Oh dear. Right. Try it again. Oh look, now we have environments. Okay. So in the spec, I said, we're creating something. When we create it, maybe we're not getting the ID back. Doesn't seem right, but maybe it's the case. In the actual endpoint, so create environment returns DB environment, okay. But listing returns entity, right? Okay, so maybe DB environment does not have the ID. Okay. So when you create an environment, you don't know what its ID is, so you can't immediately get it again, which I think is probably a mistake. Is it something like, look at the definition of, look at the definition of environment. That's new environment. Where's the actual model? Oh, it's in the DB, isn't it? In here. Yeah, okay, so it creates it with this record type environment, and it's got the full environment name thing going on here, so it's not serialized to JSON basically. Doesn't make sense. What are we actually returning? So if I do a curl minus x, no. I look for a post command. Minus D. Okay. So this should create an environment, and we'll call this Wibble. What do we actually get back? Just name and then Wibble. That's surprising actually, because I wouldn't expect this test to work then, because you're not getting just environment name. I wouldn't have thought. I thought you should get the serialized data back, but maybe you don't. I think I'd like to change this to add an ID in here. So what I want to get back is actually just entity environment. But I don't know how to, I don't know what, I struggle with entity a little bit. As you noticed previously, I want to match the contents of the entity. I can do some long-winded way of saying it should be just E. In fact, we don't even care what that is, right? And then we can say right of just entity E. I cannot destructure like that. But I can like that. Okay. So right of just entity E is result. And I could say something like E should be, and then here I can say environment and it was environment name, wasn't it? And it was test env. Okay, so this should be the same assertion, except I split it up. So I'm only checking that it's right and then just something, basically success. And then I'm checking that, and then destructuring it to try and get the E out. So this should fail, basically. I would expect it to explode at runtime because I'm not returning an entity environment. In fact, let me try and make it match the way it is at the moment, and then I'll change it to what I want and then make the code work. So this should get out the environment because it should be just an environment, right? So it should destructure the environment to E, and then I should have access to that, and I can compare it to construct my own environment with environment name. When that's done, if this works, then in theory I can change it to return the entity environment. It does not work. Okay, it can't match the whole. I mean, can't do that. Doesn't really make sense. Because then I can destructure it afterwards. Yeah. I kind of want to say it should be right, and then I don't care what what's in there at this point. I mean, I could try doing that. Seems flaky though, so. Oh wow. Finally use get environment. It's true. Okay, let's go out for a second. So this might work, that test might pass, but this line is really flaky, so if it fails, so that's an example of it not matching, it should explode at runtime. Oh no, because the left doesn't pattern match. Okay, but it's possible this won't match, and then I think something bad happens. Anyway, so we have our E back, but I want to change it to entity E. Can't pattern match like that. Need lots of brackets. This should fail because it's not an entity. It fails for the wrong reasons. No, it doesn't fail. Not in scope, data constructor entity. Very annoying. Oh, what's happened? Entity should have two arguments, but given just one. Okay, what are the two arguments to entity? Is it the key environment? Key, but it won't be the type environment, so we can maybe call this K. And in fact, we can ignore it for now. We just see if that matches. No. Oh, not in scope. Okay, does it get exploded from here? It's not the constructor either. No, it's not a constructor called key. Okay. Let me actually. Do I have this open anywhere? No, I don't. So entity takes two arguments. It takes the key and the record. Oh, so I could destruct with name field patterns just by saying entity key and entity val. Or I could just match. Let me try that. I could try matching as a function as well, or as a type constructor with two arguments, but let me try just matching it like that, first of all. Okay. Couldn't match type environment with entity record. Oh, excellent. It won't compile because I'm trying to. It knows what the type of this API endpoint is, and it knows it doesn't return entity. It knows it returns just environment. So if I go back to the API and say that this returns maybe of entity environment, we'll get another error somewhere. Yeah, so inside create environment, I'm going to say maybe entity environment. Put it up in DB, didn't I? Okay, so we've inserted it. Then we call get environment. And what does this do? So calling get does not return the entity. I suppose it makes sense, right? Because you know the ID already. So there's no point in it returning it to you. So we could say maybe entity. Okay, and then it's something like from SQL key. So what type does this take? Oh, it takes a key environment. Oh, we should be good. I could just say ID at this point. Entity ID and this. Okay. Its DB environment returns a maybe. So what I actually need to say is case. Well, not, I don't say case, do I? Or do I? Oops. So that of wow, that's not a helpful thing. Okay, so the environment that we created comes from there. So if it is just give it a name. If it's just that, then we're going to return entity ID end prime and nothing is nothing. Pure that thing. Pure that thing. Almost there. Just that thing. Okay. So that'll make it return an entity DB environment. I have a feeling there's a better way of writing that. Because env is a maybe type, so I could. It's also the last argument to this. So I wonder if this is equivalent to saying something like pure of entity ID and that and that. Absolutely not. Okay, let me get rid of pure for a second. I'll do one error at a time. Okay. So what's the problem here? It's the wrong thing. That doesn't help. Okay. So maybe DB environment with DB environment. Okay, match maybe environment with DB environment. Expected type is that. Actual type is maybe DB environment. Yeah, I thought what would happen is if I took entity ID, so there's a partial application of entity, and then fmap it over the result, over this maybe. But this is not a maybe, it's an append maybe. Okay. So let's go back a bit. So here can we say pure entity ID and now map it over env. Yes, okay, slightly better. So if it's nothing, we should still get nothing back, but if it's something, then we get just entity ID and then the value inside the maybe. Right, that's fun. Okay, so back to the spec. Cool. It compiles when I'm using key. So in theory, I can underscore this. Okay, so we now have a slightly more complicated way of doing the matching, but we can start to extract stuff from it. So going back up here, we'll put our get environment back in again. Okay, so we have created our environment and we checked that we get back some kind of result, but in particular, like it's an entity with a key and a record. We check the value inside the record, so now I can use the key to get back the record by calling the get endpoint. So get result, you should be able to say run client and then get environment. Now this takes an argument, which is the ID. So here we say from SQL key key. So I think this takes the key and turns it back into an int64. And then we run against client and port. Okay. And we should get the same thing, but this time not from result, but from get result. Okay, and then from SQL key was here, I think. Right. Will this work? It does not compile. Showing error. So couldn't match environment with maybe entity record. So what's the result of the get endpoint? Get environment or error. Get environment or error returns an app environment. This is not an entity either. That's weird. How does the how does that return the ID? Does it return the ID? Let's have a look and see. So we list environments, we get IDs, and if we get a single environment, okay, we do not get the ID back. Okay, I don't really mind. It just means that this is not going to be an entity, it's just going to be just E prime. Couldn't match type environment with maybe a, say, a bit bigger. Here, make it bigger. So expected type was client error, maybe a. The actual type was client error environment. Oh, it's not a maybe. Okay. So it's just that. Oh my goodness, amazing. Okay, right. Quite a lot of work, but we now have two endpoints that we're hitting. So one that creates it and one that checks we can still get it back. I think I might stop at that point because we're already almost an hour into it. Okay, slightly slow progress than expected there, but we have, what do we have now? We have some cleanup. I need to find a better way of doing this, but it works. That's good enough for now. And in here, we have, well, I've changed the create response to return the ID that gets created, which is kind of important, I guess, because when you create something, you probably then want to interact with it. So it does that, and then it also, yeah, we have two steps here now. So I've changed the way that I'm getting the result. I'm destructuring it and then checking stuff inside the structure. And I'm using the key to get it back again. And again, I'm kind of destructuring it. To be honest, I could say E should be, get result should be, and then just write. It's a single argument, isn't it? So it should be okay. And it wouldn't be E prime, it would be something like get result. So I think that should work as well. Yeah, cool. Okay. Cool. So next week I can sort of bulk out the client a little bit and, well, bulk out the test a little bit perhaps, but this client's what I meant. I'll bulk this out so I can interact with bookings as well. And I will try and create an environment and then create a booking against it. And I might go straight onto the availability thing because that's what I really want to be implementing. So I might do create environment, create a booking against it for the current time, check that it's booked. I think that's what I'm going to aim for. Yeah, cool. So that's my plan for next week. Thanks for watching along, and hopefully see you next week. Goodbye.